we call the roll and start the meeting. I just want to get everyone's attention and thank you all for coming, and hope everyone had a happy new year, and we're looking forward to a productive 2020 here at the Roundtable. We have Skylar Larson, the FAA Community Engagement Officer, here with us tonight. Thank you very much for coming and attending. Appreciate you being here. We have, that's Glenn from United here. Thank you for being here. And our Doug Yackel is here also. Thank you. And I think Linda Wolin I'll talk about in just a minute. And Kathleen, did she come? Is Kathleen here? Oh, okay, good, all right. I'll note her. So at this point, since it is 7 o'clock, they took the clock off of the wall. So we're timeless here tonight. Oh, it's over there. No, that's not helpful. But anyway, there used to be one up there also. Anyway, so I'll call the meeting to order and ask Justin to do the roll call to make sure we have a quorum.
Okay, City and County of San Francisco. City and County of San Francisco Mayor's Office. City and County of San Francisco Airport Commission.
Ivar Satara.
San Mateo County Board of Supervisors. Airport Land Use Commission. Town of Atherton.
Elizabeth Lewis.
City of Belmont. Present. City of Brisbane.
What an entrance. Wow.
City of Burlingame.
Ricardo Ortiz.
City of Daly City.
Pamela DiGiovanni.
City of Foster City. City of Half Moon Bay. Town of Hillsborough. City of Menlo Park. City of Melbray.
Present.
City of Pacifica.
Mike O'Neill.
Town of Portala Valley. City of Redwood City. City of San Bruno.
Laura Davis.
City of San Carlos.
Adam Rack.
City of San Mateo. City of South San Francisco.
Eddie Aker.
Town of Woodside.
Bob Livermore.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Thank you all. So, as you may notice, there is someone here missing tonight. In our regular seat, James Castaneda, who's been our airport roundtable coordinator for over 12 years. He has been the one that has worked with us day in, day out, coordinating all the meetings and the minutes and notices and answering questions and emails. He has taken another opportunity, career opportunity, and moved to Southern California. He's very excited about his new career opportunity, and we wish him well. I think that was Siri looking for him. I don't know why. At this point, we do not have his replacement, but we do have, and I'd like to have her stand up, Angela Montes Cardenas. You've probably already received emails from her. She is new to the county and will be working as our administrative assistant in helping put our meetings together, as she did this meeting with the help of James. He just left last week. So Angela, welcome. It's great to have you with us, and I think you're going to enjoy this group. It's a wonderful group of San Mateo County electeds. I see Supervisor Pine coming in. Thank you very much, Supervisor. And Sean Christian. Oh, hi, Sean. Nice to see you from Hillsborough. Yes. Okay. So our technical consultant team of Justin Cook, who you know already, and his colleague Gene Rindell, they of HMMH, they're our technical consultants, and they are going to help bridge the gaps that has been left with James gone, as well as Supervisor Pine's administrative aide, Linda Wolin, that you all know, Linda. As Supervisor Pine says, she's his secret weapon. She's really great. So she is going to jump in and help with all the coordination. So we are happy that she's going to do that. But with these internal staff changes, we haven't yet identified another coordinator. We ask for your patience. If an email that you sent to James's office hasn't been returned, or a phone call, just be a little bit patient, but we will get back in touch with you all. So we have a pretty full agenda tonight, but we do have one more person who I would like to give her the opportunity of making her presentation now before we get into our regular agenda. It's currently on agenda item number 8. It's the, where'd it go? It's the presentation from San Mateo County Office of Community Affairs on the 2020 census and how important the 2020 census is for the Roundtable. So if I may get approval from the Roundtable members to move that agenda item up to now, I would appreciate that.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're having feedback. Good.
Hello. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm from the San Mateo Office of Community Affairs under the County Manager's Office, and I'm here to talk to you just briefly about the census. And I've been advised that my presentation was a little lengthy, so I will skim through the beginning part quite quickly. But as everyone knows, participating in the census is part of the Constitution. It is mandated by the Constitution for every 10 years, every citizen, every resident of the United States must be counted. So why does it matter? It's definitely about power and money. It's about representation, reapportionment, and redistricting.
Okay.
It's on. Can you hear me if I'm just like this?
The recording one.
The television won't pick it up.
I don't think there's any batteries in this. Is that better? Okay. So, and then money. It's $1 trillion in federal funding distributed annually.
Who's dead? Dying.
In 2018, the state of California received $115 billion from the federal government. So just briefly, the census is governed by the Title 13 of the U.S. Code, which means it's completely confidential. Every Census Bureau employee takes an oath for life to keep the data confidential, and they do not share any personal information or responses with any government agency or department, and they can have up to 5 years in prison or a $250,000 fine if they share that data. So the data is always reported as statistics, and it is kept secure for 72 years, and at that point you can then publish actual household level data, but it's 72 years. So it's new this time. It's primarily online. 88% of the county will receive a postcard inviting them to participate, and those go out in 36 days. March 12th is when the census information will be sent to people. You have 3 ways of responding. You can do it online, by the phone, or by mail. And if you do not do that by May 13th, Census Bureau employees will start knocking on your doors and asking you to fill out the census. So we are really recommending people do it online or self-respond as fast as they can. This is just what the census looks like. It's 9 questions. It's bilingual, but there'll be 12 languages online, and then 59 languages also offered. This is what the online version looks like. You can toggle between the languages. Your postcard will have a unique identification number for you. You do not have to have that. So if you lose your postcard, which is likely because it's coming out March 12th, right around the time that the primaries end, so there's going to be a lot of mail floating around, you can just enter into your address, and then it'll ask you to confirm that that is you. But what's new this time is you can also enter information if you do not have a house. So if you're homeless or you're experiencing homelessness or you're unhoused, you can enter information about a specific location, like the overpass of 3rd Avenue and 101, something like that. And the Census Bureau will accept that information, and then they will go and try to confirm and verify. But this is the first time they're allowing this to happen. So it's a really good thing because we're very housing challenged in our county. And then when you finish your survey, you'll get this completion form, and that proves that you were counted. These are the 59 languages that'll be offered as a language guide. There's also videos. You can download or stream them. There's guides in Braille and also in large print. So what are we doing in San Mateo County? There's a lot of new challenges for this decennial census. The Census Bureau has underfunded this activity, so there's less people out in the field. There's less offices. Since it's moving primarily online, there's a lot of concern about data security, digital literacy, and there's a general fear and lack of trust in the federal government. So there's concerns about that privacy of your data. People don't want to do that online. And even though the citizenship question is not on the survey, it's already done a lot of damage with our immigrant communities. There's a lot of fear. So we talk a lot about what's at stake with money, and it's the money funds our most critical programs in San Mateo County. It's Head Start, it's early education, it's school lunches, it's WIC, it's transportation, it's health, Medi-Cal. All of these things are funded. And it's important to note that California is a giving state, so we give more to the federal government that comes back to us. This is our money coming back to us. So it's not a gift, it's what we deserve, or these are the programs that we need for our communities. And so what does that exactly mean? Not enough affordable housing. Public transportation may not meet demand. Traffic could get worse. Families have less support. Schools will not have enough resources. Health services will be limited. And emergency planning will be off the mark. And this just isn't for 1 year. This is for the next 10 years. And that's what we really want you to take home. There's 9 questions. It takes 10 minutes, and it'll impact the next 10 years of our community. But it's not just funding that's at risk here. The census is all about data. It's collecting information about each household. And so if you're trying to perform any type of analysis, whether it be noise analysis, affordable housing, crowded housing, if you have inaccurate numbers, you're going to have uninformed and misinformed decisions made based upon those numbers. So it's really, really important that we count every household and every person living in our county. It determines where district boundaries will be drawn, where census block groups and tracts are located. Everything is tiered off of where this population is counted. And again, that's for the next 10 years. So we have been working diligently for the last 2 years, doing a lot of this, a lot of presentations, working with cities and county and other agencies within the county. But we've also been providing funding for our community-based organizations because people want to hear from their trusted messengers, people that they know and they work with all the time. So to date, we've funded about $1.3 million to about 25 community-based organizations. And one of them I wanted to call out is we're working with Brad Cleveland from the San Mateo County Union Community Alliance, and he has actually introduced us to the San Francisco Airport Program Manager of the Workforce Sustainability and also the Business and Career Center. And so they are now providing outreach to all of their employees. They have 46,000 plus or minus employees. They said about 24,000 live in San Mateo County. Many of them are hard to reach and hard to count populations. And so they are having outreach. They are having 4 computers in their business center that employees can go to fill out their census. And then also, we're working with the San Francisco Labor Council as well. And so for the week of April 1st, we're going to be going through the airport with iPads and asking travelers to fill out their surveys right there online. So it's a great opportunity to establish these working relationships that we want to continue in the future. Not only is San Mateo County funding, there's 2 other larger organizations, the Bay Area Census Funders Collaborative, which is part of Silicon Valley Community Foundation, as well as United Way Bay Area. And between the three of us, we have released about $3 million to the county organizations, to about 70 different organizations. So lots of people are helping with this effort. And then what can you do? We just released our 4th RFP. These are for really small contracts from $500 to $3,000, excuse me. And they're to hold a community census event. You could have a picnic, you could have some sort of barbecue, you could do any type of event as long as you have census-related information, a speaker, someone trained to talk about the census. And this is open to not-for-profits, so it doesn't have to be a 501c3. It can be schools, it can be any other city or county, libraries, anything like that if you want to hold an event. This closes February 19th, so please share that with your networks. We have a texting pledge campaign. I'm sure many of you have already seen this. And then be a census champion. Talk about the census to everyone every time you can, because people need to hear it multiple times from multiple people. And you may have heard my presentation before, you'll probably hear it again, but we're gonna keep being out here and talking about it as much as we can. And then encourage people that you know to self-respond, to take the census, make sure they're counted. This is the opportunity for anyone. It doesn't matter what your status is. You can be undocumented, you can have a criminal background, you don't have to be a citizen. You have a voice, and this is your chance to be heard. And our 3 census key points, the what, the why, and the how. Every 10 years, the federal government has to count everyone. Is the what. It's really important to participate because it's used to make lots of decisions that affect our community. And when we talk about this with people, we try to individualize it to them. What's important to them? Is it schools? Is it medical centers? Is it housing? Try to make this information really unique to each person you're speaking to. And then the how, starting mid-March, you can fill it out online, by mail, or over the phone in different languages. One other thing to note is we'll have about 65 to 70 questionnaire assistance centers around the county. That'll be people that'll be staffed to help individuals fill out their surveys, direct them to support, have phone lines so they can call the Census Bureau. And if you ever need any more information, here's my contacts.
Thank you very much. Any questions from any member of the roundtable? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So moving on to our next agenda item, number 2, I'm going to turn it over to Justin to have the elections for the roundtable chairperson for the calendar year 2020. Well, I guess it said roundtable coordinator, but I can do it. So, sure. Okay, you weren't prepared. Okay. Every February we reorganize the chair and the vice chair, and I'm going to open the meeting for elections of nominations for a chairperson, and I'd like to make the first nomination. I'd like to nominate Ricardo Ortiz. He's been the vice chair for the last 2 years, and I think he'd make an excellent chair.
Second.
We have a second. Any other nominations from the floor? Seeing none, I'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. I think you're there.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Congratulations. Okay. So you can take the meeting over from here.
Okay.
For the
Let's finish the elections, and then we'll say a few words of thank you to Elizabeth. But so let's go on to the election of the vice chair. So I will open it up for nominations to the vice chair. Janet, did you have something to say?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to present the name of Ann Weingart for the position of vice chair of the roundtable.
Thank you. Do you have any other nominations? And having none, I'll put out the vote. All in favor?
Do you need a second?
Oh, I need a second.
Happy to second.
Thank you very much. And now, having the second, we will put it up for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. And Anne, I am
Congratulations.
very happy to serve with you. Thank you very much. And wait, if I could just give me just a moment. We're going to, but before you leave, I just want to say thank you, and I would really ask everybody for a round of applause. Thank you for all the hard work. At the ground-based committee, we have learned that vegetation can help dissipate the noise. And so we're giving you some plants to help you with, so make sure you plant them close to your home. Thank
These are
you.
beautiful succulents.
Thank you for.
Great honor. I've enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you. So Anne, here we go. We'll do a little musical chairs.
Perfect.
I get to stay on the committee. My council allowed me to stay on the committee, so I'm not going away.
Hi, Ann.
Hello.
And can I ask a favor? Could you keep time for the speakers? Sure. Okay. Good evening. So here we go. So we are moving on to item number 4, approval of the resolution designating roundtable meeting time and place. So if everybody's had a chance, are there any questions about this item? Everybody's had a chance to review the dates. So we have any questions? Having none, I'll entertain a motion to
Motion to
approve.
approve.
We have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor? Aye. So we have an approval of our calendar for the 2020 year. Now, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Thank you very much. And I just want to ask that you please keep it to 2 minutes so that we can keep things moving along. I have a number of slips. Thank you very much. And so why don't I start with Carol Navarro from San Bruno. Thank you. And then so you could be ready. After that, I have Mark Scholl.
Can you, okay. So this is my first meeting. My reason for coming is the airport noise and vibration. I've lived in San Bruno 60 out of the 65 years I've been on Earth. And this is my third house that I've owned in San Bruno, the one we're living in now. And when we first bought it in 2009, it was livable. It wasn't bad. And probably within 5 years or so, everything changed. The flight path changed, bigger airplanes, noisier, and they started vibrating my house, literally vibrating the house, to the point where I can see pipes in my garage move. These are gas pipes, these are electrical pipes, and it's very scary. And I just really want to bring the vibration problem to the front so that something can be done about it before there's a major disaster. It's just like a small earthquake that lasts a lot longer. And it's very scary. That's really all I wanted to do, was just bring it to somebody's attention. The vibration is not just a little, it is a lot.
Great, thank you very much, and they really appreciate you coming out tonight, and that's what we're here for, to air these issues. Thank you very much.
Okay. And
Mr.
also,
Diego.
I have one more thing.
Yeah, go-
The height. You know, I'm looking at all your data, and I have a tracker on my phone that concerns me the height that these planes are at. 500-600 feet. Nobody has any idea unless you're there how low that really is.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. Appreciate you coming by. Mr. Mark Scholl.
Through the chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mark, you had a...
It helps us if we know what neighborhood.
She is from...
No, which neighborhood?
The avenues.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second Avenue to be specific.
Yeah, thanks. This is just fairly quick. I just wanted to mention, you know, James has actually been very helpful to me. I think for example, last week we talked about, you know, how traffic has shifted over the last number of years. You asked me to provide some of that data. I'm still working on it. I've got about 120 pages already. But I think it's important information, but that's a separate project of really my own. But I think that one of the things that I have noticed, and it's one to thank James for the help he's given me. There's a few more records I'd like to get access to. I think they're at the San Mateo County Planning Commission's office, so hopefully I can get to them. But also, the records recently, over the last number of years, I think just because there hasn't been the staff or the funding for the staff, and there used to be an assistant and things like that in addition to James, or that position, that allows real meeting records, because it's really hard to do any kind of coverage of this or understand what's really going on. If you have to find one little fact, you have to go through hours of video recording, when from sort of a Brown Act perspective, there really should be meeting minutes. And I would just ask the Roundtable to try to get back to that level, and I realize it does take some funding and dedicated work, and you can't just dump it on somebody without the resources, but I think it really would help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, we really can't comment on non-agendized items, but just to say that we have had conversations about staffing recently, so. Thank you very much. Doreen Gotelli, followed by Charlie Wemble.
Thanks.
Hello. Hi, my name is Doreen Gotelli. I am in the Brentwood area of South San Francisco. And, well, at first I wasn't even going to get up here and say anything, but you know me, it's like when I have a quest unfulfilled, I very rarely let it go. I'm getting very anxious on when I can expect someone to contact me in regards to my turn to get the plane noise out of my head. The planes fly directly over my house. And it's that gate 28 or whatever, and they fly right over my house. And I can definitely relate to that woman with her vibrating issue. And some of the planes that go over really late at night sound like they are struggling to gain altitude. I just kind of curious if there's like a weight restriction or anything on some of those planes, because it sounds like, oh, it's like, geez. But yeah, so I'm still patiently waiting for somebody to contact me, and I just thought I'd get up here and remind y'all, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Gotelli. Mr. Wemple from San Francisco, followed by Rebecca Ward from Palo Alto.
Hi, my name is Charlie Wambach, and I live in the Excelsior District of San Francisco. And I started coming to these meetings quite a while ago, and I remember the party that they had for the 300th meeting. And now we're on 323. So I've been coming to this thing for 4 years. I do appreciate the video that you take of these meetings, because it gave me a chance to review it, because frankly, I'm tired of coming to them, and I went home early last time. But I want to show up just to let people know that I'm still interested. And I thank for Kathy Wentworth for her presentation last time, and Jackie Spear for her eight bills. In this political environment, I don't really expect it to go very far, because even if it gets through Congress, we know that they only passed a few bills in the Senate last year. So I think with all the deregulation going on, I don't think anybody's really going to care about all the flights going over our homes. And they do come right over our homes. Not the same flight, okay? Because I'm on a flight path, and I'm sure almost everybody in here is on a flight path, and it's not the same one, okay? Although the planes that come over my house, they go over the peninsula, and it's not just departures now from San Francisco. I have them coming in from the arrivals coming over my house too. And this thing about efficiency, if you track some of these planes, they fly around in circles. They come over, they come from the east. Instead of coming down and flying over the San Mateo Bridge, now they come over San Francisco and go around and go down to the San Mateo Bridge. So they're coming all over our neighborhoods. And I just want to put in my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wembeck. We have Rebecca Ward from Palo Alto, followed by Ashley Hathaway from San Francisco.
Thank you. First of all, I think you said somebody from United is here. I'd like to make a request that you retrofit those Airbus 319 and 320s that since 2016, the airline, and I am a big, by the way, United flyer, so I certainly appreciate airlines, but I don't appreciate the fact that there's been a cheap retrofit available since like 2014. Europe was actually retrofitting them at the time. So I'd just like to really implore you to do that, because on Surfer, those suckers come over one after another. And between that and the air brakes, it's untenable. And I have some recordings, actually specifically of United flights, if you'd like to hear them. My main reason for getting up here is I don't know if people actually saw the letter that was written by some of our Congress members to the head of the FAA. And I think it's important to sort of recite some of the things that they said in it. Not that anything will get done by the FAA, because nothing has gotten done in 5 years. But I do think people should be aware of the hazards of NextGen. First of all, they point out that they've concentrated this over our neighborhoods, our schools. We all know about that. In addition to that, they talk about the fact that the heavy air traffic, 3 of these routes go over Palo Alto. I know I say that, and then they exit Palo Alto and go over East Palo Alto, even lower. They produce heavy amounts of constant noise, and what they talk about is also the particulate matter, of which now the 4th study done by the University of Washington about the fact that ultrafine particulate matter follows the arrival routes and has significant impacts on health has now been published, right? So we have 4 of those. So they note that that has happened. They also note that that has not been deemed safe by the FAA or any other agency, right? So this stuff is getting concentrated over our kids, over us, over our seniors, and nothing is being done about it, right? So the noise is horrific, but the pollution is even worse. And I think it's time for San Francisco and the Bay Area to actually take an initiative to actually deal with this problem.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Next, we have Ashley Hathaway from San Francisco, followed by Eric Philsith from Palo Alto. Oh, council member from Palo Alto.
Hi there. I'm from San Francisco, obviously. And I have so much to say that obviously I can't say it in 2 minutes. And rather than say a bunch of angry words and, stand up here and act pissed off, I just want to ask all of you guys who are on this board to continue doing the job that you're here to do. And that's to do something about the communication to the FAA regarding these jets flying over our neighborhoods. It's really unbearable. I'm probably not going to come to these meetings anymore because it's just not, I feel like it's not worth my time. I've already sent multiple emails to multiple people. I won't even go into it. And I've written to our Congress people and everything. And there's a huge issue obviously from Oakland Airport over San Francisco. I mean, we get all of their flight paths, all of them. In fact, none of them seem to be going east from the airport. They're all coming over San Francisco. For some reason, I'm not sure why people think that that's okay. It just makes no sense to me. So anyway, I will leave you guys with a response I got from Kamala Harris after a response I got from Jesse from the Oakland airport saying that the flight track data is normal and consistent for normal flight patterns. That doesn't make any sense to me. And anyway, Kamala Harris said, "Thank you for writing to me about the FAA Next Gen Transportation System." I'm going to just say this really quickly. I'm not going to read all these words. Since the FAA began implementing changes to flight paths as part of the Next Gen Modernization Program to improve safety, efficiency, predictability, Americans living near airports across the country have experienced new and increased incidents of aircraft noise. I mean, I doubt that she's making this up. So anyway, I appreciate all of your time. Please keep doing what you're doing, and let's get the FAA to do something about this
Great. Thank you.
massive problem all
Thank-
across the country.
Thank you, Ms. Hathaway. Appreciate you sharing your concerns. Eric Filson, council member in Palo Alto, welcome tonight, followed by Mary Jo Fremont.
So thank you very much. Eric Filseth, City Council of Palo Alto. So thank you folks very much for providing our city with temporary noise monitors last year. As you know, we'd like to get permanent noise monitors if that can be done. With more than half of all San Francisco arrivals converging over Palo Alto, and almost 20% of your noise reports coming from Palo Alto, and also that the temporary noise monitors showed last year that noise levels in Palo Alto are higher than in many communities closer to the airport and in San Mateo and San Francisco counties. We'd really appreciate the chance to have to be a permanent part of the noise monitoring program. And if you can do that, I'm confident that we can find a good and reliable location for that. And then just briefly, I understand there was a noise monitoring meeting today. If these are public meetings, I'd like to request that these be noticed. Apparently this one was not, so that folks that aren't part of the roundtable itself and the public can attend. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mary Jo Fremont from Palo Alto, followed by Yapley from Palo Alto. Thank you.
So I want to talk about the departures that go south over the bay. They typically occur at night. So you know about the SFO departure going south. It's called the 050, SFO 050. And as I've mentioned before, it does impact us in Palo Alto in the mid-peninsula cities because they typically fly at night. They're on full thrust, they fly very low, they're already heavy, whatever. It's noisy because we're trying to sleep and we hear them. But there's also another departure also from Oakland that was going south over the bay. And lo and behold, the FAA decided to do something. Nobody asked about it, but they did something. And it's called now the SUNY 120 procedure. And it may also impact us because the proposal, as we understand it now, is also flying close to could fly close to the mid-peninsula cities. So my only, the FAA is supposed to answer these questions, but they have been slow to respond. I just have a question for SFO, the airport, and this roundtable, and I just would like to know if the airport or the roundtable was involved in requesting the SUNY Oakland 120 departure procedure. Simple. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fremont. And we're moving on to Darlene Yapley from Palo Alto, followed by Dr. Bruce Colville from the Excelsior District in San Francisco.
Good evening. I'd like to ask the roundtable to consider restarting the legislative subcommittee. The opportunity to leverage with roundtables and noise groups across the nation is very high, and there's a lot of activity. And I think there could be a lot of leverage if we can work together. In order to make real systemic changes, we need to change the laws. We all know that, because we're not experiencing any significant impact, if anyone wants to know the law. So that needs to change. And also the 2018 FAA reauthorization, they have late on their deadlines, the FAA, the ombudsman's not here, the research on metrics is not here. So again, there is approved legislation that has not been followed up on, and I think that's a responsibility for that group to follow up. And second, I'd like to add my support. It was incredibly disappointing that we missed the noise monitoring meeting today, and I have to think that that's because James, there was a transition. But I do want to put this out to you. How do we make up that we weren't able to come to the meeting and make any comments? So that's really, not to dwell on it, but what do? We missed the meeting and we like to be included. Again, you heard the information about the kind of impact we're experiencing with arrivals, and every time they change the routes, this is a great opportunity for us to understand what kind of noise impact there is. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Again, some of your comments we will address later in the meeting. So now we have Dr. Bruce Colville from the Excelsior District, followed by Miki Shinozawa.
Good, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your service and representing all the cities in the area. The Excelsior, a lot of the folks, I've been there for a lot of years and have a neighbor here. Recently, there have been so many planes going over, been an increase, and a lot of people are asking why. What is the reason? What's the rationale? And I think generically here, we're asking you to get some answers for us. Simple as that, you know? I don't think it's too much to ask. You're representing your cities. We have concerns. I worked in Millbrae for many years. I was a principal down here at St. Dunstan's. I had a big concern about the health issues of these planes in this area. Okay? Sound, excess plane flights. We just need some answers, folks. That's all. Some explanation. When we call, give us some information. If you don't have the answer, let us know where it's at. Simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Colville. Now we move on, Miki Shinazawa from Foster City, and I don't have any additional cards, so if anybody else is interested in speaking, just stand up and let me know.
Hi, yeah, it's Miki Shinozuka.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay, that's okay. I came here, I think I meant to come to the noise monitoring meeting, but this is my first time here. I came here not really so much the noise, which is pretty bad, but I live in Foster City where I see planes come down into the flight path. And what I've noticed is that my Wi-Fi, I think, is being impacted. And I've been telling people, and people don't really, it's not just my Wi-Fi, but my cell phone. So my callers, right around the afternoon when planes come down, suddenly my boss can't hear me over the telephone, and then I have to step outside, and there's always an airplane right above my complex. I see the belly of it. I could, you know, it's so close. I'm not too sure they're supposed to be going that close and inland, but so my Wi-Fi gets impacted. Now that I work from home, I log in, and I log into a pretty large network for a large company, and that really shouldn't crash, but I crash really just about every time a plane flies over. So this is an issue that I wanted to bring up. I think that I'm more impacted because I work from home, but some of my neighbors have also dealt with the whole cell phone issue too, and they're not speaking up so much because I think they don't use their phones during the day in that area as much. So I don't know who to ask or talk to because there's not, maybe I might be a unique person, but it is definitely has been impacting my phone for the last year. But also, something's been invading my Wi-Fi too recently, where I'm a single person living in a home, and within a month, I use up apparently a terabyte well, there's something invading my Wi-Fi, meaning, and I think that.
Ms. Shinozuka, if you could just please wrap it up.
Okay, I'm done then.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for your comments. I have one. First, tell us your name and what city you're in.
My name is Steve Rudy. I'm in the Bayside Manor neighborhood here in Millbrae. I'm finding some discrepancies about your noise reports. I find it really weird that it says that site number 2 here is currently not operational. Look at where site number 2 is, and that's over the avenues. That's probably where it gets it on the loudest right there. You know, and I think that's conveniently not, you know, operational for some reason. And then, you know, and you look at the flight paths here, and if you zoom in, I mean, this tells you nothing. It doesn't show the actual neighborhoods, you know, the lines go. You can see where, you know, what's really going on here. And I'm looking at the Millbrae report here, right? And it says noise reports. The Millbrae report.
Please speak into the mic, please.
You know, something.
Sir, you need to keep the mic close.
Oh, I'm sorry. You guys can't hear me. I'm sorry. Anyway, it says here that on Millbrae, it says the noise report's only 7 and 16, but down here in Los Altos, where there might be, you know, people a little more, maybe their voices are heard more, there's 12,000 reports or something like noise reports, 12,000 in Los Altos, but there's only, and it's louder here in Millbrae for sure. I'm the closest house away from the airport, just about. And I'm finding some discrepancies in these numbers here. There's only, you know, that's all.
Right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
And having no more public comment, we'll close the public comment. And we're moving on to our consent agenda. Is there any member of the roundtable that we wish to pull any of the items on the consent agenda? No, having none. Any member of the public could wish to pull any of the items on the agenda? Having none, I will entertain a motion.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
do have a comment on consent calendar, on director's reports. Just for the record, it is my understanding that a lot of the people who do reports based on ground-based noise, because they are not airplanes flying above us, it's hard to track that complaint to that airplane. And when that can't happen, then that noise report is discounted. So that's often why you look at the cities that are close in that experience both in-flight noise, but often flights taking away from us, you're not seeing that data. And that's something that we've only barely talked about at ground-based noise. And sadly, the director's report doesn't reflect that. So we'll be working on a ground-based noise report, but I'd really like it if the director's report actually did at least put a footnote into that.
Great. And so that was kind of addressing your last comment question. So hopefully we do have some answers for you. Thank you, Member Schneider. So having that, anybody else have any comments? Or if not, I would entertain a motion. At this point, we're just...
I just had a question for what she was saying.
Okay, I'm going to allow it, but you'd have to step up to the podium and use the mic if you'd like to do that, because we need to have it on the record. So this is a comment on item number 6. Okay?
When you're talking about the reports, is the flight tracker, the jetnoise.org I have on my phone, those reports go somewhere, right?
Bert, would you mind would you mind picking that one up? Thank you.
I mean, they're emailed someplace.
So you're talking about stopjetnoise.net?
Yes.
Okay. Those are actually done by a third-party private entity. We ask that he give us the information that he collects, and he is a willing participant to share that data with us. We then report it out in a director's report. We do not discount any noise report that we receive. The only ones that might be discounted are ones that don't include full detailed information of name, address, location, that type of thing. But we do still collect them. Those, yes, we collect them regularly. In fact, that's 98 to 99% of our reporting right now.
Is it? Okay, because he sent me an email, said that the cloud was going to go away and this.
Okay, I'm going to ask that we continue moving along.
Like I said, it's a third party. We speak with him occasionally, but
okay, thank you for your
pay
comment.
for it, and he does it gratis.
Okay, with that, I'm going to once again close the public comment on his item. And so again, I'll entertain a motion. I think Member Rack has a motion to approve. I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So with that, we will move on to, we don't have an item number 8, so we will move on to SFO updates for the Airport Director, Ivar Sartero. Thank you.
Okay, so a couple things. Coronavirus is a hot topic. We're fortunate at SFO to have a permanent presence by CDC, and we did ramp up that operation as well. CDC brought additional people in to do the screening. Everyone's probably aware of the new presidential order around this, that no one who is a non-resident, everyone who is a non-resident or doesn't have a permanent, U.S. citizen or permanent residence and has in their itinerary in the last 14 days have traveled through China is not allowed entrance into the U.S. And we do have screening ongoing currently for U.S. citizens and permanent residents, and including health checks and that kind of thing, as well as itinerary checks. GBAS status. We are currently still in negotiations with Honeywell. Honeywell is the provider of the GBAS system. This is the GPS landing technology that we're working on. It's about a $10 million investment for SFO. Honeywell is a very difficult partner to negotiate with us on this, and we've engaged other airports in trying to leverage the influence of more than one airport. They're just pretty non-responsive. at the moment, and we've come a long way. We're just still trying to close the deal, and they're just not a very responsive group. There's some speculation that this part is potentially going to be bought by someone else, and there may be a corporate strategy that benefits from delaying this, which I don't understand. But we're continuing to try to drive closure on the Honeywell contract. And so, we're looking at when can we start flying overlays. It's probably mid-2021 at the earliest now with the delays we've experienced around the contracting. I should have said about, as you've seen around coronavirus, a significant decrease in flight activity to China. So we have very few flights and a decreasing number. We have typically 90 flights a week to China, mainland China. That is now about 40 and also continuing to drop as the coronavirus concern continues to spread. Our second chance and replacement noise insulation program, we have a slide, I think, to see the status of that. You can't see. I'll read off some numbers for you. It is for replacement, we have 815 applications, 576 that are within the noise exposure measure map. Thanks, Bert. We've visited 452 homes and we've tested 43. In the Second Chance program, we've have had 536 applications, 120 within the noise exposure map. We visited 191 and we've tested 65. Not loud enough. Oh boy, that's much better. No one was complaining though. I must be loud of myself. Thanks for that. So let's put this in context of what we're trying to achieve over the next 2 years too. We have $9 million in our current program that we're working on for 2 years. That's $6 million in grant funds and $3 million in airport funds. That's this 2-year, $9 million program. The FAA has approached us about the opportunity for another $5 million. The $5 million would also come with a 50% match, so that would be a $5 million from the airport for $10 million. So we're now looking at how to resource both of these programs, and over the next 2 years, try to implement $19 million of insulation improvements. So I agree with Doreen and her comments around how long and her Doreen, are you still here?
Yes.
Okay. And her frustration with the length of time it's taken, and we're looking through that process to see how we can expedite it and even have 2 sets of resources that can implement the full 19 million within the next 2 years. Our intent is to meet an October of 21 deadline to get the work done under the 9 million. I want to see if we can get both these programs done in the next year and a half, over a year and a half. So it's live, and we're looking at process improvements and also bringing on additional resources to achieve that. Update on traffic. We are down just under 1% from 2018. We served 57.5 million passengers this past year. International traffic still significantly up and increasing, 7% increase. Domestic down about 3.2%. It was from the committee last time to provide for everyone any new airline service, or also the removal of every service that the airport experiences. So we do have a new flight that is coming to SFO. It is a Qantas flight on a 787, arrives at 4:15 p.m., departs at 11:15 p.m., 3 times a week. We have a discontinued service by Iceland Air to Keflavik on a 767 that would arrive at 6:55 p.m. and depart at 3:55 p.m. And that was 4 days a week. So there's a swap of planes. The one unfortunate thing is the departure time of 11:15. And I think as this group knows, the airport doesn't control these types of operations. So also, I'm committed to talking about items that were brought up at the last meeting that I feel are within the purview of the airport. And one of those things was Doreen's comment about how long she's waited for the next visit. And so Doreen, our team is working on that, and we will be giving you a milestone shortly, okay? And that goes along with all the others that are in the queue for installation. Noise monitoring in Palo Alto, Mary Jo, you brought that up last time, and we have the letter. We have responded to the letter as of this evening, and I'll tell you just basically the response is, and council member, thanks for your comments. The response is that we've requested from the FAA, is this an issue in terms of diversion of revenue? Permanent noise monitoring is characterized differently than portable noise monitoring, as I understand it. So the portable isn't subject to the same level of review as monitoring in what's called the environs of the airport. The permanent is trickier. So we've asked for a read from the FAA on whether we can make that expenditure outside of the noise exposure map and not be subject to a diversion of revenue claim on that. So we will hopefully hear shortly and follow up with a letter on that. Okay, so thanks. Let's see if I had anything else. Nope, that covers my list. Glad to answer any questions.
Very good, thank you. Any questions from the members? Member Schneider.
First of all, I want to thank congratulate San Francisco for your 7 new electric shuttle buses. I have taken to reading the minutes of the San Francisco Airport Commission. They meet twice a month, and it is a wealth of new information. So congratulations on those from the city of Millbrae. Everything you can do to speed up the electrification to us is a way, I think, of reducing ground-based noise, facility-based noise. So congratulations for that. In the same minutes, you talked about drones. Now, the other cities, my understanding was that drones couldn't be flown within a certain number of miles of big airports. But then I thought we got the impression that no, they can fly in more places. Can you give us an update of drones? And do we need to put anything locally to protect our local airspace?
Drones are prohibited from operating within 5 miles, Doug's nodding his head, 5 miles of the airport. The discussion item was about a drone detection system, and we're in the final phase of negotiating with a drone detection system, so we know what kind of drone activity is happening within 25 miles of the airport. That doesn't allow for mitigation of drone activity, but it does give us the visibility of what is happening and the ability to alert on drones that may be trending in our direction, that type of thing. Right now, our most reliable source of drone information is our pilots. And we'll get a pilot report once in a while about a drone operating. We've never had a near miss or anything like that, but they are seen once in a while.
Please let us know if there's anything we can do, City of Millbrae can do to help with that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Third question then is, in your notes, you had a contract extension for a $7.5 million expansion of Terminal A Boarding Area B for 28 new gates and 7 international swing gates. Now, I'm operating on a theory that we haven't tested yet, that the expansion of Terminal 1 and the opening of Terminal 1 last March has increased the amount of facility-based noise, which is the ambient noise we're dealing with. So I'm a little bit concerned that Terminal 1 keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Can you give us an update?
It's the same plan it's always been. This plan has not changed over the 3 years that we've been developing Terminal 1. It's a progressive design build contract, incrementally funded as we buy out and phase openings of the terminal. There's no addition to what the original scope was.
The only problem is, depending on how long they're running on their APUs, they are adding to the noise that we are experiencing, as well as the particulates that we're experiencing.
It is not adding. There is no addition as a result of the terminal work. particularly around APUs. The airplanes are there. The challenge is if an airplane comes to the airport and is waiting for a gate, now they're running an APU. When they're at the gate, they're not running an APU. So the benefit of having gates is actually a reduction in pollution because we have ground-based power and we have ground-based what's called preconditioned air. So, and as I've discussed before, the addition of gates doesn't mean more aircraft are coming. The addition of gates means that there's a place to bring them, and they're not like an airport that has hour waits for gates and a lot of airfield that creates an unsafe condition on the airfield. So I'd be glad to meet with you. If you see something on the agenda that you want to talk about, maybe it's better to have, especially if you want to talk about a number of the items, we can
Well,
have
these
a
are,
one-on-one.
right now in ground-based noise, we've been talking about basically takeoff, departure noise, and not about actual airport operations, which very much affects Millbrae, and that we're starting to monitor.
Glad to sit down and talk about anything.
Okay, and then my final one is, I have been writing many fly SF noise complaints. I did hear back from one of your staff members. One of my comments was only 3 houses in Millbrae fall under the Second Chance program, and yet he wrote back and said 30 homes. But when I go and look at the map online, I still only see the 3 houses. So I'm just curious, maybe we need to relook at those maps. Because I have your staff saying 30 houses. If you look at the list, it used to be 26, so maybe one finally fell within the NEM.
I'm not sure. Bert, do you know?
Offhand, I do not know the answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any
Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm
Just, I did want to respond to Mary Jo's comment about, no, we don't advocate for, you said, is SFO advocating for use of the SUNY 120? And no, there would be no reason for us to advocate for anything like that. And the values that I've talked about not shifting noise and not advocating for things, to me, that's how we make decisions on how we, work with the FAA and also are transparent with this committee as well. So I wanted to give that to you.
Okay, any other questions for the airport director? Would you please step up to the mic? Thank you.
Before, but what happens to all the noise complaints? So Palo Alto, I found out from city manager's letter to you, is consistently 18% of the complaints, and you can see it here. But what happens to these? Like, why do we do this? Like, because nothing's happened to improve the situation in Palo Alto, which is also known because of the 18% since next general neighborhood. So I'm just wondering, why are we doing it? Like, do you do anything with this? I had asked you before, but since we all do report it, hoping that the airport will take action to remediate the situation from its airport operation, nothing's happened. So is that a question you can answer?
It's valuable information in terms of what we do is heat map where we get the largest amount of complaints and from the largest number of the community, and it's helpful for us to position portable noise monitoring and permanent noise monitoring for monitoring within the 65 NEM. So the data is helpful to know because we do heat map the information. I don't know, Bert, if you anything else you think is valuable.
Follow-up question to Ivar. Ivar, you mentioned your response to Marie Jo Fremont from the last meeting, and your comment was that you were looking at Palo Alto because it's outside of the contour. But when I look at the director's report on page 1, there are 5, 6, 7, 8 locations that are not in the noise contour in Daly City, 3 in San Francisco, Hillsborough, Redwood City, and so on. So it's kind of puzzling why these are exceptions and our city is not.
Yeah. Understood, and those are legacy locations from a long time ago, but I understand why you're asking the question, and I think it.
Yeah, but I think to buy the new monitors, you're still applying for new AIP funds, so the same rules would apply. I think what are there now, 4 or maybe 5 cities that are in the map, and that's it? And then the entire roundtable leverages off of those rights created by those 4 or 5 cities. And I also know that because of the variances that the county gives you, you've made commitments to variances to build new facilities. You've made commitments to give them monitors. So, and that's in your the airport, up plans. So, I think that this really needs to be looked at more. And the other thing is that, FAA regulations after ANCA basically say, which is the regulations you often talk about to say you can't turn airplanes away, so that the only changes that any community can make can only be requested through the airport involved. So this idea that, there's this one community that's related mostly based on permits and variances to the airport, and then everybody else is excluded, no matter how much they're affected, just doesn't really hold water. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, could Mr. Ganong respond to some of the initial comments?
Yeah, please, Bert, if you could.
With regard to the question on noise monitors being purchased with AIP funds, the read that the FAA did give us on that one is you cannot purchase noise monitors with AIP funds outside of the noise contour. With regard to the current noise monitors that we have, they are purchased with airport funds, not AIP.
No, that's still a
We're
question.
still waiting for further determination from the FAA. Now, as far as portables and items like that, permanent portables on a rotating cycle quarterly, we can do those. And so far, like I said, we're still waiting for their final determination. Having gone through a recent audit, it's not fun, and we want to be sure we don't fly afoul of that.
I'll just be clear, airport funds have to be spent on airport. Just because there are revenues, we don't have leeway to spend them off airport. So they're still subject to the same guidelines.
Okay, and with that, I'm going to go Supervisor Pine, you had a question?
Yeah, for Bert, just remind me, Bert, what's the cost of purchasing and installing a monitor? Your standard permanent monitor?
Permanent
Yeah.
noise monitor, approximately $35,000.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Member Borgens?
If I may, one more. That does not include the annual maintenance or the cellular wireless fees.
So Bert, you might help answer this question. Please. You talked about the noise contour. And
Yes, ma'am.
there's legacy areas. How do we change that area? Why are some in it and some not? And how did that happen? And if it was many, many years ago, how did we change it?
Most of our noise monitoring sites were established years ago, long time ago, back in the 80s. And so there were groups that were added in time afterwards. Now, what we were referring to with the FAA's reading on what they told us has been updated in the Part 150 Advisory Circular. Also, too, has been in their regulations and the AIP guidance for AIP funding. So those updates have occurred over time. And also, too, with the program guidance language for Part 150, which was done, I think, 2012. That was pretty specific on many things, including the insulation of homes and how the programs were to be managed. Whereas in the past, there was a little bit of leeway. They really tightened it up.
So let me see if I understand what you're saying. So all of those guidelines that were updated were in the same zone? Did they go outside?
No. They apply nationally. They just general guidelines for your program with regard to insulating homes, monitoring noise, things like that.
But you still stay within that particular area.
Pretty much if you had one that was outside, you could keep it, just don't be putting a new one out there. Noise monitor locations, right. No problem.
Okay, thank you. So I want to first of all I just received a note, remind the members to please speak into the microphone so that we capture it. So thank you, Linda. So now we're going to move on to the next item. Thank you, Mr. Director. And we are going to move on to item number 10, which is a report from the ground-based noise. And let's see who's going to do that one. Oh, me. But no, I'm going to get some help. I'm going to get some help with it because in general, what we did, we talked about different items, but the most important thing is our last item was that we advanced kind of talking about what the kind of study that we want to do moving forward. And I think we really made some strides there. And but let me pass it on to Justin. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what the items were that we discussed and give us a little insight.
Sure. Well, we discussed 3 memos that HMMH prepared. One is in regards to vegetation and some background information acoustically of what that could and couldn't do, some of the variables and things to consider when you want to use vegetation as a possible measure to reduce noise. The other memo was on our spectral data analysis, which was conducted using some of the data from Bert's office, using their NOM system, looking at, I think, 4 locations, and basically getting a good understanding between various timeframes before, during, and after the runway safety area improvements or project. There was a request to add a few months of data, so we're going to, actually we've requested that information already.
And the request was done so that we would have the same weather, so it was year over year at the same time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was an April timeframe, so we're going to get April 2015, I believe, and April 2019 to keep it consistent, to see the trends over time, perhaps. So we'll be doing that analysis and getting back to you guys. And then we also talked about things that HMH would need to conduct some noise modeling. So, whether it's GIS files or different variables and parameters and mitigation options that are possible to run a noise model, which will help shape the report or the study that's going to be done.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so for those who are getting new to the roundtable, what this study is basically focused on the communities that are very close to the airport where we get the noise from the airplanes taking off. So that the ground base is primarily not planes flying over us, it's the backblast from the planes taking off and noise that happens in the tarmac. So one of the things that we've discovered is that there's cities, particularly in Burlingame, I had a situation where somebody lived in a certain part of town, then they moved to a different part of town, and they went from not hearing a thing to keep staying up all night. So we're trying to get a little more understanding on how the sound waves travel, how they get to certain neighborhoods and others don't. And once we understand that, we might be able to take some steps to mitigate it. So that's where we are. We made some big, I thought it was a good meeting. We made some big steps forward. And I think we're getting to the point where we're going to get to a study, and then we have to figure out how we're going to pay for it and how we're going to go forward. Councilmember Schneider, did you have a comment about the meeting?
I would only add one of the real surprising things from the spectral analysis is sound moves in strange ways, and the monitor that's in Hillsborough, which is actually the highest in altitude monitor, actually experienced the worst decibel levels compared to the 2 in Millbrae and the 1 in Burlingame. All 4 are bad. but the Hillsborough one, which is farthest away, was actually worse. And so it's really interesting looking at data down into this level. And the other thing I would say that I'm very grateful for the people that attend the ground-based meetings, because they brought up an issue that has been added to the analysis, to what we're hoping to put into the analysis, which is the difference between the way sound moves over a hardscape, over water, and over mud or plant space. So we're moving forward, and these documents will all be, I know Linda's in the background, we're going to get them on the website.
They're on the website attached to the ground-based noise agenda from January.
Okay.
And what she said is that they are on the website attached to the ground-based noise agenda. So speaking into the microphone.
Oh, thank you. And I would only add, for the people here interested in ground-based noise, which could be, I believe, as far away as Brisbane. So something that I didn't really believe before, but this type of sound is our meetings don't have a standard meeting date and time. So the best thing that you can do is sign up and get on the list and get noticed that way. And we would love to have you at our meetings.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to open it. Members, anybody have questions about the ground-based noise committee? And if I'm having none, then I have any member of the public have any questions or comments about the ground-based noise committee? Having none, then we will move. I'm sorry, if you have one, you please step up to the mic.
Lucy Romilly from Foster City. And with regard to the ground-based noise, the analysis that you're doing about sound and how it travels over water and other geographies, you know, how can we take that information and can it be tied to the noise that travels over the same type of geography but from landing instead of takeoff? Can it be tied together?
Thank you. And I'm just quick answer. What we're studying specifically this ground-based noise, but I think some of the findings can be applied to other types of noise. Justin, I'll let you answer that question.
Yes, I would say yes, but also the noise modeling that's done by the airport does take into account terrain and topography. So the contours are reflecting those actual conditions, yes.
Thank you. And I'm being asked that if you do want to speak, please fill out one of the cards so we have a record of who spoke. So I'm getting in trouble here, guys. So moving on, so I'm assuming there's no further public comment on this item, so we are going to close item number 10, and we're moving on to item number 11, which is the nighttime hush procedures, and I'm going to pass it on again to Justin for a comment.
I have no additional updates on night hush, so yeah, no additional updates on that matter.
Okay, just for the people who are new, could you remind us where we were up to now, what has happened?
Wow, that's tough. Yeah, no, it's a long story.
And again, I'm sorry to put you. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
It's okay.
But I'm just trying to, for some of the new members and some of the members of the public who are not familiar, I just want to give them a little bit of information.
We're kind of, and I think Ivar could.
I'll do the short version.
Short version,
yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Ivar.
You know, this was an effort with the FAA and engaged with the airlines to get their also participation in the study of night hush. There isn't, it is, all parties agreed that it's appropriate to move forward with the study of night hush. And it doesn't say it's getting implemented or anything else. It's that everyone is in agreement. We should study it further to see if there is noise shifting and further impact to communities. So that was as of about a month, about 3 weeks ago, I guess.
Okay, and again, for the new members, night hush would be a change, the request was, or the idea was to change the procedure from flying straight over San Francisco and going a little further north, going out the gate. Is that what we're trying to achieve?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so what we're trying to do is have them change the flight path. Thank you. Liz, you're talking about this one? Yes, okay. Liz, so you want to go to the podium right now because I'm about to close this one. Liz, if you could just step up right there. Okay, so for those who don't, what we're trying to accomplish is to have that path moved north and over the Golden Gate instead of over San Francisco during the night. So thank you. Liz, please go ahead.
Oh, I was just curious, who is updating us, like the roundtable, like about Night Hush? Like, how do you know, Justin? Like, what are the updates? Like, who contacts you, or who do you reach out to for information?
You want me to answer that?
Yes, please.
I am not being kept up to date.
So who is the person? Like, because you don't have any updates, but like, who would have the updates? Like, who do we reach out to, the public? Like,
Yeah, you know, the first step, the initial step is just to get alignment amongst the major stakeholders that we should or shouldn't agree to move forward with that. And so once we get a cadence around moving forward with the study of Night Hush, there'll be more direct reporting with HMMH.
who reports to HMMH?
HMMH is our consultant that
And-
Justin
but who-
represents right here.
But who reports to them? Like,
We will report to him based on, and he'll probably attend some of the meetings as we get the cadence going. So right now we.
so we is you like the airport as the airport director? Is that correct?
Sorry?
When you say we will report to them, do you mean like you?
The group that's assembled to look at Night Hush will include representatives from HMMH and likely other folks from the Roundtable and that kind of thing.
I'm just confused. So the group that's assembled to discuss Night Hush, who are they? Can we ask who they are?
It hasn't been assembled yet. What I was indicating is that the major stakeholders, to get alignment that we should proceed with studying Night Hush as requested by the FAA, that's the group that's been convening so far.
Okay, and by major stakeholders, do you just mean airlines?
Airlines and airports and FAA are essentially not just SFO, but Oakland as well, and San Jose.
But so far, you just said that they are in alignment as far as
Yes.
studying it? And
yes.
then do they have any idea of what that means to study it? Like,
It's a conversation. I'm just going to leave it at that. And I can get you some more information. I don't have it right now, but I can get you some more information to go forward with this.
All right.
So if you want to leave me your contact information, I will find something. So without any other comments, any other questions on nighttime hush? And if not, then I will move to item number 12, which is a Pirate 2 status. And again, back to you, Justin.
I have no updates on Pirate 2, but I do want to remind everyone that we've combined these agenda items to be more than just Pirate 2, but also additional matters related to arrivals. So if there's other concerns regarding arrivals, now is the time to bring that up.
Okay, so members, any concerns regarding arrivals that you want to bring up right now for Justin? And having none, I do have 2 public cards, and I'm going to start with Mark. Since you're halfway up, let's take you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think, and the arrivals is probably a good area. I think as you put together the work programs this year, the technical subcommittees, a focus on the arrivals, because there have been major changes there. Obviously, on the Class B change, they got a new cliff put in place, or plateau put in place between Humpback and Eddy, which has caused massive amounts of, noise from speed breaks. And that's clear in the FAA records. And it's one of those things that could be worked on and identified. It's not like, okay, you got to go change a thing. You just got to modify it, because things get just put in and they get left that way. And particularly the 320s, 319s just make a tremendous amount of unnecessary noise at that location. But the other thing is with the 20-degree change with Pirate, where it moved 20 degrees to be going over Palo Alto, what you tend to see is they're keeping it on the 060 heading till almost now. to East Palo Alto, at which point they do a pretty sharp turn, and those turns are really noisy on the 777s. So it's a similar but a higher pitch than speed brakes. And so I think that some of these things, you know, if we put them on the technical working group, subcommittee, that they can be worked and, you know, kind of modified, and maybe the airlines can say what's going on or we're crazy. But I think that there's enough data that says, yes, these things are happening, and the potential are things that, unlike many other things, if focused on, could be fixed. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, and maybe a monitor in East Palo Alto, because they both go over that.
Thank you. Now I have Rebecca Ward. And Rebecca, your city was Palo Alto, correct?
Yes, Palo.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, I guess I had a question or a request for Pirate. When the FAA got up here and talked about the fact that it was going to be 8,000 feet at Woodside, it didn't mention any of the impacts to those of us downstream. But what they did say it wasn't going to change anything, but it clearly has changed things because the heading has changed. So I'd like to request that they actually provide the tracks now, and not one of those big mushed up tracky things that you do where you show like a year's worth and nobody can figure out what's changed, right? It just looks like a bunch of spaghetti, but maybe over a period of time, maybe by a week, so you can actually see that in fact what's happened is you've created yet another rail, like the Surfer Rail, which is basically a highway from Southern California and often now from other places all the way up over Palo Alto into East Palo Alto and parts of Menlo Park. So it'd be great to see the tracks on that one. And the other thing I would say, which goes to the Surfer route, which is horrific, supposedly, and I know Bert's working on this, the BSR route change, which is basically moving Surfer yet again. Nothing's been reported on that. However, I do know, because I did the FOIA request, as I mentioned, that in fact the airport was involved in those meetings, as was United Airlines and other folks, nobody from the public. But it'd be useful to see what that actually is going to look like sooner rather than later, and that would actually impact many of you also, because I did at least notice that they want to change Eddy and move Eddy further west. So it doesn't look like they're improving anything, but when I got an email from the airport, they said that you would in fact advocate for dispersing traffic, remaining higher over populated areas, but when I actually got the minutes, there was nothing in there where the airport was advocating for any of those things. So I'd like to request that you actually do that, because you guys are involved in the design. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your comment. Lucy Romoli, and then followed by Charlie Wembeck.
I think that's on. All right, so with regards to arrivals, I've lived in Foster City for 30 years. I'm in my second home that I've lived in since 1979, and it is on the water. And I also, as my other fellow citizen said, work from home. This isn't about a retiree complaining about noise. I actually interview via Skype, and I have to change the time of my interviews because I can't hear in my office, or I move from my office upstairs to downstairs. It is the arrivals. They are so condensed, and they're low. The elevation is just remarkable that you feel like you can look through a window on a plane. I am also concerned about our children in our schools in Foster City. Mine are grown. I just know that, you know, when it comes to particles, and we've had a national case of this already. This isn't a national problem that we're facing, but we're going to try to act locally to affect it. So please, when you are looking at these things, can you tell us why the planes are so low? Why are they being so condensed, particularly if the Metroplex of Northern California, the efficiency was, I don't know which report it was a negative $7.5 million. So if they're all right, what was it?
It was the Office of the Inspector General.
All right, so if there isn't a positive on the numbers, why are we continuing this? And can anything be done? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Charlie Wembeck from San Francisco.
I'm Charlie Wombeck from the Excelsior District in San Francisco, and I only see the incoming flights that come over my place because, you know, when you click on that stop jet noise, you know, so I imagine this affects a lot of other people too, okay? But what I've noticed recently, I mean, I did a lot of flying. I haven't flown for 15 years, and I don't plan on doing it ever again unless I have to. But you know, we always came in, you know, over the bay, across the San Mateo Bridge, and landed. And now it seems like no matter where flights are coming from, even if they're coming from Wisconsin or New Jersey or something like that, it seems like they come over San Francisco, they go over the peninsula, they go down to Fremont, and they go around, and they come up over the San Mateo Bridge. And you know, it just seems like it's a lot of, I don't understand why they have to come over San Francisco. What happened to the old routes where they just came across the country, you know, went up the bay and over San Mateo and landed? So that's my complaint about, you know, landings are coming right over our house, no matter day and night. I don't notice them too much during the daytime, but at nighttime I do.
Thank you, Mr. Wembeck. And with that, we're going to close this item and move on to item number 13, which is the roundtable budget. So we have, I'm sure everybody's had a chance to look at the budget. So if I have any questions, Member Snyder, you said you had some questions about some of the items.
I think we're going to have a very busy year, and given that our consulting costs went a little bit over budget, but now we've got a fully functioning ground-based noise committee. We've got hopefully a re-energized legislative committee that will be tracking not just the 8 bills introduced by Congresswoman Spear, but any of the bills out of Sacramento that deal with particulates as they relate to noise. Assemblyman Mullen is going to have a bill looking heavily at particulates out of our area a little bit, but may have a relationship to air operations on there. I'm just a little concerned that we keep it. I know there's that extra $30,000 in contingency, and maybe that's enough, but I think it's going to be a big year for us, and I think some exciting things could happen from that. So I think there was a speaker earlier saying, you know, we want the legislative committee back. I strongly support that. Let's make sure we fund it adequately. Let's make sure the departure and the arrival working committees, if I've got the right name, have adequate funding for staffing, as well as ground-based noise and the ongoing operations of this committee.
Great. Thank you very much. And so, Janet, please.
I had one comment, and it relates to Ann Schneider's correspondence that she sent out. And I want to agree that I think Milbrae has done a stellar job hosting us, and it would be nice to see it reflected someplace in the minutes that we are actually using this room, and there's no cost to us.
Yeah, and just to make that clear, we're very happy to continue sponsoring this.
You were very clear about
and
that. She was very clear in her memo.
It just helps me with our constituents to know where their dollars are going.
I just think it's a nice gesture, and I think anytime a city does something like that, and I think it should be.
And I think that's fair that we should mention that, and I think we could talk to staff to see how we can amend it. But the budget we're working on today is for the fiscal year that's halfway over. So, correct. So my whole point, and one of the things that we talked about, once we get staffed for this roundtable, we're going to try to do this a lot earlier next year, and then we can take things into consideration. But one of the things that's important to point out is that we do have we have studies that we have talked about, especially the one for the ground-based noise. So there is some excess funds that I think that we will be using for these studies, and I think we're going to go beyond what the excess funds that we have, and we're going to have to go find funds to, because what we were talking about with these noise studies for the ground-based committee that's going to be an expensive study. So some of these excess funds that we talked about that are in the budget will be allocated to that. But yes, Member Borgens, I think that makes sense, and we will look into that. Again, and staff, once we have staff, it'll be a little different. For the moment, we're trying to get through. Any other comments on the budget? Any members of the public have any comments on the budget? Having none, we'll close that meeting. So with that, I will entertain a motion or any other comments. And
Motion to approve the budget as presented.
Second.
we have a motion to approve the budget and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And it sounds like any opposed? No, so we have a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. And we will move on to the information is a formal coordination with other Bay Area roundtables, and I'm going to let Ann Wenger talk about that one.
All right, this is kind of like a slow-moving train that's trying to leave the station. The task is somewhat complicated, I think, by some of the startup phases that ASCSC is going through, and also just Oakland and their composition, which is a mixture of elected and public. So we're trying to work through how that might all pan together. The other three areas, though, I think that we will hopefully be having a meeting amongst these three groups in this next cycle. The holidays were somewhat problematic. We sort of lost everybody pretty quickly. But we will be looking to get that group together. And another set of initiatives that I think we're going to look to is to potentially try and meet with Ivars and some of his staff to see if there aren't ways to coordinate at the airport level, since I know all airports aren't currently participating regionally. So to our south, we don't have San Jose working with the SCSC group yet, and that is clearly a major omission. So one of the things we want to tackle is to potentially try and figure out a way to make that happen. So that's a big part of how this would potentially come together, and obviously a key component. And then I think the final thing, obviously, and we've started some of these initial discussions, is to meet with our congressional representatives to see whether we can't secure their support. I think they've been otherwise occupied over the last few months, so I think they have had a free pass for a while, and it may go on for a bit longer, but we recognize that some of the success we had with the Select Committee, and I believe we will have on an ongoing basis with this group, will certainly require whatever involvement they can give us and support. So that's the current initiative. I hope in the next meeting I'll have more to report specifically.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions, members?
Yeah.
And I have one question or comment from, Councilmember Schneider.
This is slightly not related. I come from an activist background, and I'm connected both nationally and internationally with environmental organizations. So I've already put the feeler out for other groups working on airplane noise related. I was looking more legislatively on that. So I'm beginning to get contacts back with them. I will check them first. My original reason was for ground-based noise, but whatever I find out, I will turn over. But this would be generally outside of our Bay Area.
Okay, any other members? With that, then I have Rebecca Ward. You had a comment or question?
I appreciate that you're working to try to coordinate with the Santa Cruz, Santa Clara Roundtable. I don't think that, though, alleviates the need for Palo Alto to be part of this roundtable, as I've advocated for every meeting that I've gotten up here. As Eric Filsef mentioned, 50% of the arrivals traffic on its final approach into SFO goes low over Palo Alto. I don't know what bigger criteria you could need. I mean, 50% of the arrivals traffic. It's like 300 planes, somewhere between 3,500 feet, and I know that people, believe me, in Foster City have it worse, but like, there has to be a legitimate criteria, and the legitimate criteria should be the impact from the airport operations, because we don't get any noise mitigation from the airport noise folks. And I assume that's because we're not part of the roundtable, because they do advocate for you folks. And so it seems to me that it would be reasonable, and it should be one of the things you should think about, which is asking Palo Alto to join the roundtable. Because otherwise it looks like the traffic's just getting dumped over the border onto Palo Alto and East Palo Alto with no voice. And so I don't think that that's the perception you want, but that's the reality of what's happening right now. So I really would like to ask you to consider actually asking Palo Alto to join the roundtable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then I have Dr. Yvonne McHugh from the city of Richmond. Yeah, I think about coordinating.
Hi, I wanted to respond to Ann Weigert. I just want to ask if when you reach out, could you reach out to the city of Richmond and also to Congressman DeSaulnier, who's represents part of Contra Costa County. Because we don't have the ground-based noise issue, we have the overflight issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay, and with that, I have no further comments, so we will move on to the next section, which is the appointment for roundtable subcommittees. And so, oh, I'm sorry. Question, go ahead.
A follow-up question. On the comment that was just made, what's the procedure for a city to become a part of the roundtable? East Palo Alto is in San Mateo County, but they're not on the roundtable.
You know, I'm actually not sure. What I do remember with Palo Alto is the issue of membership for Palo Alto was raised. It was put agendized, and we voted on it, and we voted against it. So it's one of those things. I'm assuming, including East Palo Alto, would have the same procedure, and I really don't know what the procedure is.
I'll speak to that, Cecilia, I think, because I probably have one of the longest tenures, I think, on this group. And there was a time, and I can't tell you exactly when it was, that I know East Palo Alto had been invited. They were always invited as a member of the county. Obviously, they're part, but they chose not to participate. But that goes back, and I don't know how many years, but at least probably 8 or 9.
Okay.
So it may well be that because they were always included, and obviously because they're part of the county, to be part of this group, that we could reach out to them probably at any point in time to see whether they would be interested in reconsidering that.
Okay. And Palo Alto has not been invited because they're not in the same county.
Exactly.
That's the only reason why.
Exactly right. There was a vote, again, for the members that are new. This item was taken up, and you can probably tell me exactly which year it was, 2 years ago now?
No, it's 20.
But the most recently?
Yeah, I think it was like 2013, 2014, 2014.
Was it that long ago?
I have something.
No, there was 16, yeah. So within the last 5 years, we'll just be broad-based, in the last and the most recent effort. And it was a very highly discussed, and there was obviously some, and you could probably even illuminate on that, Elizabeth.
Well, I remember it was when Nancy Shepherd was mayor, and she came of Palo Alto, and she came and presented, and I was on the board, and I supported it. I really did, because I really feel that Palo Alto should be part of this roundtable just because of all the reasons given. And the roundtable discussed it. It was highly discussed. And the vote came down to really only 1 or 2 people tipping the scale. And so it was not, the majority. It was the majority, but it was only by a very slim majority. And I think it was because of a plea by one of the founding members of the roundtable saying, we just have to stay this closed community, because if we open it up to Palo Alto, then, Marin will want to come in, or other people. Right, do you see? And it then becomes unwieldy. But I think that we may have to relook at it, and I, for one, would be very much in support of including Palo Alto.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's on both sides.
So I'm going to start with Pamela, who had her hand up first.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I would presume that would be the same for the town of Tacoma, because in recent conversations, Mayor John Goodwin actually had asked that he's interested in becoming a member. Hopefully, if somebody would, he doesn't know what to do about becoming a member.
You're right.
Yeah,
was similar
he's
to-
relatively new on the council.
They had been.
He may be interested.
I think some of the cities dropped out when there was a financial
Oh, okay.
downturn.
I do too.
So,
That
so
was when
let's do this. Why don't we agree to add that on a future agenda so that we can discuss it and we can discuss the merits, because there were good arguments on either side of that, and I think it's important that we discuss it and we bring it up again. Tom, did you have a question?
That's all I was going to suggest, that we add it to our future agenda.
Very good. I think we're-
It's worth to bring it back. It has been a couple of years since we last discussed it, and I think that it's very clear that especially the arrivals that are, that come down the peninsula and make their left-hand turn, go right over the areas that of concern, and we should include them.
Perfect. And I think there's enough support among the members that this should be on a future agenda. But looking at our agenda item for tonight, I think we're stepping quite a ways outside of what we were agendized for. So I'm going to entertain more comments, but I'm going to ask that you be careful not to go too far away.
Well, I was going to save it for the communications at the end, but I think that this might be the optimum time when we're looking at the potential for others to review where we find there are members of the body that are in arrears as far as the dues. And,
Yeah.
and I don't know how you, voting member in an organization.
Well, and I'll just answer that. I think from what we understood when we were working on the budget, there was some calls that were done in the past to follow up with these payments that have not been done this year because of staffing. So my sense is it's not on purpose, and we will try to rectify it. So thank you for that. And
I just want to, I reached out to the mayor and vice mayor of East Palo Alto in November and December, and Vice Mayor Romero told me at Council Cities on Friday they're looking at this. So it may have been just, it could have been the downturn and then not thinking about it, but I would welcome them. We are stronger together.
great. And I would suggest that there's two conversations to be had, and that would be members who are inside San Mateo County versus members that are not. And I think those are two separate conversations, because one, I think, is pretty simple. The other one's a little more complicated. So with that, we will put this on a future agenda, and then we can have conversation. I'll invite the people from Palo Alto to look out for that and come and give us your thoughts on that, 'cause I think it's very important that we hear from you. Any other comments on this before we move on? And with that, then we will move on to the appointments of Roundtable Subcommittee. So we have the working groups, which are the departures and the arrivals. That's the only two working groups, correct?
Well, historically, it's been one technical working group that's kind of discussed both, but I think the vision, James's vision was that it eventually would become two working groups.
Okay, so at this point, we only have one. Now, are there any members who would be interested in leading that working group? So we're trying to get some volunteers, some people to,
I think, it's my understanding that really everyone was invited to the technical working groups. Whoever could come, and it wasn't just, because it's a noticed meeting, it wouldn't be a Brown Act if, more than the quorum came. It wasn't just specific people.
okay, so, but you were at each one of these working groups, you were there conducting the meetings?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm suggesting that it would be nice to have somebody else there conducting the meetings so we could take a little burden off the chair. And so, to go, Ann, please.
I'm not necessarily volunteering.
You raised your hand.
I just want everybody to understand that historically, the working group meetings have been during the business hours.
Which
So I
is-
know quite often it would be former Chair Elizabeth Lewis and I, and maybe a couple of other of us might have been at those meetings because maybe we gave up work time. I don't know if that's a problem that should be rethought about making it into an evening meeting, which for us is already difficult. I'm not.
Okay, so for me, it's always very difficult to do right in the middle of the day, and so I would hate to be relied on to conduct the meeting. So that's why if I could get a volunteer to show up to these meetings and run the meetings, then I'm pledged to be there as often as I can.
I'm happy to volunteer to help with to chair that until if we find a departure and arrival staunch person, I'm happy to step aside. But for now, yes.
I'll work with her on that.
Perfect.
I'll
Thank
work
you
with
so much. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Through the chair,
Wait, I'm sorry.
if I could make a comment about
Yes,
the
please.
technical working group meeting. It seems like a big push was last year or the year before with the technical working group when we were really working with the FAA, submitting, the dozen questions or whatever, and trying to get the responses from them. It seemed like they transitioned from not wanting to come to the working group, but only wanting to come to the roundtable body itself. And so what would the technical working group really achieve?
Well, in my mind, even though we still have to prepare the questions because the FAA was asking for us to be very specific in our questions, I think the technical working group would be very good about when those arise, and we could just, instead of having a standing committee, we could call it when we need it, is to sit down and figure out these items and talk about them and try to narrow the questions to the FAA, because I think that was the biggest issue that they worked on last year. So if everybody's okay with that, I think that makes sense. Elizabeth, so you're okay with that? Makes sense to you?
Whatever you say.
I'll take that to be yes.
I agree with that. I agree. As long as
Okay,
everybody-
so I have some people who are going to help me with that, so I appreciate that. And so I also have the legislative committee, which, Janet, you had expressed concern, and I think the reality of this body is that we don't have any teeth unless we have some of our legislative partners with us pushing for the change.
Absolutely.
So to me, this is probably the most important committee, because what we're doing is raising some issues, but when we want change to happen, we need help.
Yep.
And so I think that is a very important committee, and I appreciate Janet stepping up. Thank you very much. The Work Plan Committee, and the Work Plan Committee is where we sit down and figure out what it is that we're going to try to accomplish for this year. So is this a standing committee that meets regularly, or is this just one time? So,
At most, we met twice in a year.
okay, so that one, I'd be happy to be involved. So, and anybody who would like to volunteer to work with me on that one, that would be great.
Which one was that?
And you better put your hand down. You keep raising your hand. But I'd like to any other, anyway, great. So, and,
5 or 7 of us on that.
well,
committee,
and if you've done it in the past, I welcome your experience. So we will be sending out notices, and hopefully some of you will find some time to join us.
Oh, that one.
Operations and efficiencies.
I didn't think we had that.
Okay, so what we can do is I will talk to the people who raised their hand, and I will call a few other members to try to strong-arm them. And we will try to set some time to start these meetings. And do you usually attend, or are you on the phone, Justin, for the?
Usually I'm on the phone.
Okay, so that makes it actually adds a little flexibility to the whole thing. Okay, so with that, any comments, any questions from the members?
Are you addressing the current ad hoc committee on?
Oh, I'm sorry, that one's, it's,
That one, I think, that one is definitely one that Hillsborough's it's important to
Right.
us, particularly important to us.
And
So
I-
we would work with that.
let me, because Al has been a very regular member, and I think that'd be great. What I was going to recommend on the ground-based committee is because taking on these duties, I'd want to pass on that baton, and I would recommend that Councilmember Schneider take it on, actually Vice Mayor Schneider, pardon me, Vice Mayor Schneider. And if you,
do live it.
if you're
Yes,
willing to
please.
raise your hand again on yet another one, that would be great. We've worked together on backblasts since you and I first started here, so I appreciate all your efforts, and so I think you do a wonderful job.
Through the chair,
Yes, ma'am.
as far as the other ad hoc subcommittees, we had a working group this evening at 5:30 for
Monitoring.
noise monitors. And we would like to make a recommendation to this body that we have an ad hoc subcommittee to continue that work and schedule that as a meeting And I believe we have an agreement with myself, Member O'Neill, and Member Royce to work on that subcommittee as an ad hoc basis.
I think that's one of the biggest issues that we have right now is talking about the monitor, so I think that's a great idea. And I will put you in charge. Thank you very much for volunteering.
Do we need a formal
I would like
motion?
to encourage Mayor Taylor from Menlo Park to be involved in that one because of noise monitoring in the Menlo Park area. If you have the bandwidth or if you want to drop one of the other ones, but I think that's a really important.
That's actually the one that I volunteered for, but I showed up at the ground base.
Yeah, okay, good.
We loved having you at ground base.
Somebody complained they can't hear you. You could put the mic a little closer, Elizabeth. But anyway, what Elizabeth was saying is that it's important for Menlo Park to be involved in that subcommittee or the ad hoc committee. Councilmember Schneider.
I
give me
can't
just a sec.
remember if we voted to create an ad hoc monitor committee, in which case do we want to, would you like a motion
Well,
to create the ad hoc committee for noise monitors?
I think that's what staff would like, would be that we make a motion to add that ad hoc so that it can be properly noticed and we get the correct attendance.
Very good. I'll take that to be a motion.
Second.
And we have a second, so all in favor?
Aye.
Great, so we now have, what did we call it? A monitor placement ad hoc,
Monitor subcommittee.
perfect.
Placement, I'm sorry.
Monitor placement subcommittee.
Placement.
Okay, very good. Thank you all for that. I appreciate that. I think that's important work that you guys are going to do. And with that, we will move on to item 16, any member communications or announcements? Davina, please.
Hi, good evening, everyone. From the city of Belmont, Davina Hurt. I'm a new member, so I'm curious whether we're going to have any types of orientation with the various stakeholders. If not, I will definitely be reaching out and getting to know everyone very closely.
Well, let me just mention that when we reviewed a budget, there was a lot of amounts that were budgeted for this specific purpose that went unused last year. So if Bert can put together one of the Noise 101s in the next few months, I think, and I encourage anybody, I personally would like to go do it again because it's been a long time. And I'd like to see that tower, so.
Go to Traycom.
And the Traycom. So Bert, if you could comment on that, please, that would be great.
It's been 3 years, I think, for Traycom.
Yeah. It's well worth it.
It wasn't on until just a moment ago. Anyway, I spoke with Jesse at their last Noise Forum meeting just before I went out. They would like to form up and do a Traycon tour, which would be something that I highly advise to everybody in this room to go on if they can. We also will be happy to do another Noise 101. We did one last, about 6 months ago. So we could do another one, be no problem. We have a nice brand new facility where we are located and good meeting rooms there.
So we can coordinate and try to come up with some dates, and then it's a great thing. And I think, again, I'm going to try to go to this one because I think it's really important to be refreshed. So for those members who've been here for a long time, I encourage you to do it again. And if somebody went, the last one we did, somebody had some great comments about it. Did anybody go on that last one? Anyway. Good. So with that, any other comments or member communications?
Just one announcement. Next Friday, we have a new facility opening up. It's called the Sky Terrace. This is a pre-security observation deck, essentially. A lot of the community used to come and love to come out and watch airplanes at the airport, and we used to have the Feinstein lot dedicated to that, and then that got taken over for other uses. But in Terminal 2, opening Friday, we will have the Sky Terrace. There's going to be a cafe right downstairs from it, and a wonderful opportunity to get close to the activity if you're so inclined, as you don't get close enough as it is. So you could even get closer. So.
So do they get
Very
it for
good.
free?
Member Borgens, you had another?
I'm just curious, do they get it for free? Do they get, I mean, you know, we just reaching out here.
Passes I'm handing out. No, it's
Just
free
little
access.
passes.
Well-
But it has security, so.
Okay, have security.
Get that real ID out.
Okay, so any other member communications, any other announcements? And with that, we go to item 17, which is adjournment. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for coming. Appreciate it.
Good job, Richard.
That was fun.
Great start. Oh, thank you, Ivars. I will be calling you if you don't mind.
Thank you, Ann.
Do you have your card? Got it. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, great job.
Glad to have you with me.
Cells there as well, Ann.
Thank you. Yeah, I know I could find it, but it's easier.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you're welcome. I think the Roundtable actually is paying for the video, but, yeah, no, I...